Hey everybody, welcome back. Idaho Fabricator. My name's Steve, and I had one of my subscribers ask some questions about boxing in the frame, and so today, just really quickly, I wanted to talk a little bit about that. I don't have any video of me boxing the frame in, but I do have a lot of photographs, so I put together a little slideshow for you. And but before I roll the slideshow, I wanted to just talk a little bit about boxing in the frame. So if we can pretend that this piece of C-channel is the frame, there are a couple of ways that you could box the frame in. One way would be to go underneath like that on both the top and the bottom, and run a bead along there. Some guys I've seen actually run it in a little ways and run a bead along there. That's not the way I chose to do it. The problem with doing it underneath like that is the frame on these trucks, it's not straight. It kind of goes up and down the whole length of the truck. They got a lot of years under them, and they're just not straight. And it's really difficult, time consuming. It's so time consuming to try and match those up and to get it to fit right. So here's the way I do it. I take a piece of just any old steel and I clamp it to the bottom of the frame like that. And then my boxing plate, I just rest it on the bottom. Okay, so I've got one of these at both ends of the frame. And by resting this on there, it's flush on the bottom. Okay, before I do that, I bevel the edges and rest it on there. Then I come up here and mark it. And either, depending on how much higher it is, I either cut it off or grind it smooth. Bevel the edges. And then, so if you can imagine, it would fit like that. This inside edge would be beveled, and this top edge would be beveled. And then you could lay a nice bead along there, okay? Be sure you do it in little steps and then jump back and forth from one side of the truck to the other. You don't want to induce any, warping and any more warping in the frame that's already there. But this way of doing it works really well. Then you can grind this smooth, do a little round over here, and you end up with a very nice looking finish on your boxing plate. So I wanted to just show you that's the technique that I use, and that's the reason that I use it, because it's a lot easier to set up and it's quicker. And there's one other thing in the video that I did, and I really couldn't really explain it, so I wanted to show it to you. I made this tool here, and let's see, just for informational purposes only, it's 40 inches of all thread, and then I've got these little pieces here, and you'll see in the photographs that this fits into the frame. And then depending on, in my case, here's what was going on. The frame on this truck was bent in on the bottom, okay? And so before I put the boxing plates on, I wanted to have the frame straight. And then once I put the boxing plates on, I didn't need this tool anymore, okay? So I designed this tool to fit into an existing hole, and it's far enough away that I can get the boxing plate in and weld it along the whole length. I hope that, actually, weld it along this length here. Sorry about that. So if this was the frame, this would be hooked through a hole in the frame, and then as you twisted this nut, it would push the frame out, okay, and make it straight. And then I had a piece up on top going through the bed mounting holes so that the top wouldn't come out too. I didn't want it to come out like this. I wanted it to come out like this. I hope I was explaining that okay. If I didn't, let me know in the comments, okay? And I'll see if I can do a better job of telling you what's going on. So sit back, enjoy the slideshow, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, guys, welcome to the slideshow. This is the rack and pinion. I was having some clearance issues with the crossmember on the front. So here's a kind of an aerial view just to show you. It's a big cross member, and it was part of the motor mount also for the motor. So I cut her down. This looks way better. I like it a lot. It's cleaned up, and it just provides just enough support for the radiator. There you can see the how it compares to the way it was before. A lot more room. Really like it. Here I'm at the back of the truck, and I'm fitting the boxing plates in, making sure that they fit around the coilover cross member. And I took the original rear cross member and bolted and clamped it to the frame so that I could measure the plates and make sure the frame didn't move. Well, here's some more fitting, some more adjusting, and making sure that everything fits just the way I want it to. So you just take your time, and you'll get a really nice fit. This is a view of beveling before I was going to weld the back boxing plates in. Just wanted to show that to you. This is a thing I had to make. It bolts on to where the rear bumpers would go, and it kept the frame from moving while I welded it in place. The cross member that I had clamped was in the way, so. And here I'm just fitting the other plates that go in front of the coilover cross member and making sure that they transition into the 4-link brackets. I chose to leave those bolted in, so I threaded inserts or welded inserts into the frame before I boxed it in place. And I like it. It worked out good. Just a reminder, make sure you get all your welded inserts in place before you box it in. That's the bumper for the rear axle housing. I had to make this tool to spread the rear frame apart. On the bottom, it bowed toward the inside of the frame. And so I came up with this idea. I used all thread, and it pushed the bottom of the frame out. And then on top, I used a piece of tubing with a couple of 1/2-inch pins to keep the top of the frame from moving out. I just wanted the bottom to kick out. And I'm back up toward the front on the passenger side, figuring out that scallop for the exhaust and just kind of fitting it in place. I had to get this done before I could do the boxing plates between the front and the back. And so I got that all cleaned up and smoothed out. It looks good. And now I'm ready to fit the rear boxing plate from the front to the back in place. So here I'm just double checking the angle, making sure I'm happy with the angle. And here's another view of that. You can see on the left side of the frame there, I'm getting that adjusted, getting that where I want it. Here's another aerial view showing you what's going on there, fitting those plates, making sure that it's just where I want it. Okay, here's some of the welding that I did. Just stitching along, take your time, jump back and forth, side to side. And you'll notice that threaded bung that I welded in there. That's for the ground clamp for the battery, for the frame and the engine and the chassis. Here's an aerial view of the clearance for the exhaust manifold on the passenger side. Before I boxed the frame in, I had this cross member that I fabbed up. But when I boxed the frame in, I had to come up with another plan. So this is what I did. Those are 1/4-inch tabs, and they're going to be welded to the frame. And there they are after I shaped them and got the look that I wanted in the sander, and they turned out really nice. And here they're welded in place right in the middle of the frame. The cross member has a 6-inch drop in it, and that allowed me to put the transmission exactly where I wanted it and have the mounting tabs in the middle of the frame. So I put this picture in to show you the stock cross member that I had to replace, and I got 2 views of it, one front, one back, and it was in the way of the drive shaft because of how high I had the motor in the frame. So here I am fabbing up the rear cross member. It's 2" by 5" rectangular tubing with a 2" hoop in the middle. And there's the exhaust cutouts. I'm trying to figure those out, making sure that they're where I want them. And this view here is just kind of a long view showing you the frame boxing before the cross member. Here I'm starting to fit the cross member in place, making sure that it's in the middle of the drive shaft, making sure that everything lines up. I went ahead and welded the hoop in at this point, and then the next part I'm going to weld up the exhaust cutouts. That crossover sill there that's bolted to the frame, that was to make sure that that hoop for the drive shaft had plenty of clearance under the bed. So that's what that was about. Let's see. This is kind of an aerial view of the cross member, showing you where it is in relationship to the frame. And then here is the same view with the cab on, showing you how far back it is from the cab. All right, guys, there's a slideshow. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you've got any more questions, leave me some comments and I will try and get back to you, answer them as best I can. I know there's a lot of you guys out there that are working on trucks and projects and stuff. And anyway, I hope this was helpful for you. As always, it's been really enjoyable hanging out with you guys today. I will see you next time at Idaho Fabricator. Take care.